What makes a serial offender tick? How can investigators identify someone they've never seen just by studying a crime scene? Welcome to Criminal Profiling Explained, Techniques, Psychology, and Real Cases, a deep dive into the fascinating world of behavioral forensics. In this video, we'll break down how criminal profiling actually works, the psychology behind it, and how it's been used successfully and not so successfully in real-life investigations. Criminal profiling, also known as offender profiling or behavioral analysis, is a technique used by law enforcement to infer characteristics of an unknown suspect based on the behavior exhibited during a crime. It blends elements of psychology, criminology, forensic science, and pattern recognition to build a working portrait of the offender. Profilers might suggest a likely age range, gender, occupation, personality traits, or psychological disorders based solely on crime scene details. While popularized by shows like Mindhunter and Criminal Minds, real-world profiling is less dramatic but still powerful when used correctly. There are several major techniques in profiling. Here are the most commonly used methods. 1. The FBI's crime scene analysis approach. This is a top-down method developed in the 1970s by the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit. It categorizes offenders as either organized, controlled, planned crimes, likely to have higher intelligence and social skills; disorganized, chaotic, impulsive crimes, often committed by socially isolated individuals. This method looks at modus operandi, MO, signature behaviors, and crime scene staging to draw psychological conclusions. 2. The investigative psychology approach. A bottom-up method pioneered in the UK. It relies more on statistical analysis and data from past crimes to establish probabilities and offender behavior patterns. Less theory, more evidence. 3. Geographic profiling. This uses spatial patterns where crimes occur to identify where an offender might live or work. Often used in serial offenses where location clustering is key. At its core, criminal profiling is about understanding human behavior under stress and the compulsions that drive criminal acts. Many offenders fall into psychological categories like antisocial personality disorder, psychopathy, paraphilic disorders. In cases of sexually motivated crimes, profilers often use knowledge of developmental psychology, trauma, and cognitive biases to interpret what the crime scene says about the criminal's mind. For example, excessive overkill may indicate personal rage, while the absence of forensic evidence may point to prior criminal experience. Here are a few real-life cases where profiling was used. The Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. The FBI used a behavioral profile that highlighted his reclusiveness, intellectual background, and ideological motives. This helped narrow the suspect pool and led to his arrest in 1996. BTK killer, Dennis Rader. Early profiles described him as an intelligent, control-oriented, middle-aged man with a stable job, traits that later matched Rader almost exactly. The Beltway Snipers. Initial profilers incorrectly assumed the sniper was a lone white male. In reality, it was a duo, John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo. This case highlighted the limitations of relying solely on profile assumptions. Criminal profiling is not foolproof. Critics argue that profiles can be too vague or biased. They may lead investigators to overlook key suspects. The field lacks rigorous scientific validation in some areas. In court, profiling is rarely used as standalone evidence. It supports, but does not substitute, traditional forensic work. Nonetheless, when paired with other tools, it can provide valuable direction in difficult cases. Criminal profiling sits at the intersection of science, psychology, and investigative art. When used responsibly, it can help us understand not just who committed a crime, but why. Thanks for exploring criminal profiling with us. If you're interested in more forensic psychology content, let us know in the comments. Do you think profiling should be used more in law enforcement or less?